think we can. There's a second part of the ask though, and this is the hard one. Now, I've been talking about high skill immigration reform for 20 years with you guys, and it's a lot of fun. It's part of the best part of my jobs. But I have literally given 4-hour presentations on this. I will not be doing that today. So we're gonna run through this quickly, get the basic message through to you guys, so you know what we're doing and what's gonna come next. And if you feel comfortable, make one simple point during your meetings tomorrow. Here's the basic message. First of all, America needs to invest, as we just talked about. We have to invest in our domestic workforce, K through graduate students. We have to find more Americans to do these jobs. But that has never been enough. Every single one of you know that there are immigrants, people who are not born here, all over America's high-tech workforce. And that's one of the reasons we're as good as we are. There are, in fact, very, very smart people in this world, very innovative people. Actually, there aren't an abundance of truly innovative people, and some of those truly innovative people were not born here. It is in our interest as a country to get them here. But how we do that matters. How we want to add innovative, skilled people to our country is through citizenship. That's how we do it here. In other words, if we need skilled non-Americans, and we do, we need them forever. And you do that through citizenship. Ieee USA, for the last, well, since the late 1990s, has been the most vocal and the most aggressive group in Washington, D.C. for high-skill visa reform, leading to more green cards for skilled workers. And that's what we want more of. But it's citizenship. Citizenship is the key, not residency. It's not enough to get skilled workers here and working. We have to make them part of the country, and that requires citizenship. So specifically, we want more EB green cards. A green card, which by the way is pink. That's not important. A green card is a document that makes you a permanent legal resident in the United States. Once you have a green card, you can stay as long as you want. And you can become a citizen. You can put yourself in line to become a citizen, and it's mostly just a bureaucratic process at that point. So we want more employment-based EB green cards. There's about 140,000 of them available. That's not nearly enough. Yes, sir?
When you talk about 140,000, you also have to talk about the country cap limits, which raise almost 30 to 20% of those green cards, which don't go to anyone. And we have never been able to claim them since the 90s. So we are speaking on one side, increasing the cap, but we are not even using what the cap is because you put laws which don't let you use it.
And when I give a 4-hour presentation on that, that's exactly the kind of thing we talk about. Yes. So let me get to that in just a second. We want more EB green cards. There are dozens of different schemes that have been dreamt up over the last 20 years on how to do that. You can simply raise the cap, you can make more visas, you can exempt people from the cap, you can recapture visas that were
like the Eagle Act that still was passed November 23, just last year. It's not gone anywhere, but that's the most accurate that can explain the whole thing.
The Eagle Act is the country caps, correct?
Yes, country caps, and it also talks about how we can claim the ones that have been unused.
And that's, you and I can talk about that in a different context. We can go into a great deal of detail. It gets really complicated really, really fast. But your point is correct. This isn't going anywhere this year. And I'll talk about why in a second, which is why we're making the broad points this year, because next year is the year for high-skilled immigration reform, I think. It's after an election. We'll either have a new president or a second term for a president. That's when new ideas have traction. In an election year as ugly as this one, it's not happening. So we don't need to get into the details. But there's dozens of ways we can raise the EB visa cap. Ieee USA does not care which one of them we use. It's whatever one works. So we don't need to get into the details. We want more EB visas. If you're asked how, say we don't care. Any way works for us. Let's keep it simple. We want an adjustment to Schedule A. This gets really wonky. In order to get a employment-based green card, in order to start using one, you have to go through a process at the Department of Labor called labor certification, where the DOL determines that there's no Americans that can take that job. It's a useless process. It doesn't actually do anything, but it's there. There is a list of job categories that get through the process faster called Schedule A. That list is not updated regularly. It's updated occasionally. There are no AI jobs on there at the moment, as I understand it, because when the last time it was updated, there were no AI jobs, which is the problem. You all are moving technology faster than DC bureaucracies can keep up with you, which is good, because if you were slower than the bureaucracy, that would be very bad. But DOL has to catch up. Here's the hard part. We do not want to increase the number of skilled workers in this country through temporary visas, the H-1B and the L visa in particular, because they are not good enough. H-1B visas and L visas and the other temporary visas allow people to come to this country to work for a certain number of years, after which they usually have to go home. We can talk for hours about this. We can't, because we got to get out of the room. But the bottom line, the big problem with the visa is this. H-1B visas are not owned by individuals. They are owned by companies. A company gets an H-1B visa, hires someone to use it, but ownership of the visa remains with the company, which gives company control over people's residency status. This is the problem. If you're in an H-1B visa, your boss comes to you and says, things are a little tough right now, we're gonna have to cut your salary by 20%. And I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturdays. And I'm gonna need you to work on Christmas. You got a problem with that? If you are on a temporary visa, you have two ways you can respond to that question. Yes, no sir, I do not have a problem with that, or I'll go pack my bags. Because if the company takes the visa back, you have 30 days to get out of the country. That, folks, is simply not good enough. If companies need to hire, if companies want to hire skilled individuals that are not American citizens, Ieee USA says, absolutely, you should do that as an American. And we want to work with the companies to make it easier to hire non-Americans as Americans. That requires a green card. But if companies want to hire them under any other status, that is simply not good enough for us. And from the CHIPS Act perspective, here's the problem. If the workers staffing our new fancy chip fabs are not allowed to stay longer than 5 years, 5 years from now, the skilled workforce will be someplace else. And the next generation of fabs are going there, not here. If Congress wants to create a long-term chip manufacturing business in the United States, we need more workers from everywhere. But we need them to stay here. And the only way they stay here is as an American. I think what's going to happen is, as the fabs that the CHIPS Act is funding start to get up and going, companies are going to have a heck of a time finding people to staff them. The easy way for them to overcome that problem is through the H-1B visa program. We don't want that. It's not good enough for us. And so I think next year, we're going to have a fight over this. And we can prime the pump to win that fight tomorrow by all you got to do, support more green cards and more American workers. And then we'll get into the details later. Specifically, support the STEM Jobs Act, which is Senator Durbin's EB green card expansion bill. Where's Illinois? I'm going to be at your meeting with Durbin tomorrow because he went way out on a limb on this one for us, and we need to thank him. The bill is bipartisan. It's not going to pass, but it might pass next year. And oppose any effort to expand the H-1B visa program. Again, companies want more visas. We're there with them. But it has to be citizenship visas, and that's a green card. Some of you may be aware that the politics around immigration are just a wee bit messy at the moment. There is actually very broad bipartisan support for our position on immigration. High-skill immigration is very popular among both parties and across most of the American public. If we can get just a green card expansion bill to the floor of the House and the Senate, it would pass. The problem is, our bill starts to move, and politicians say, this is a great idea, and. This is a great idea, and we should do amnesty. This is a great idea, and we should do a border wall. This is a great idea, and no. And then we're dead. Seriously, this has been my life for 20 years. This is every time we get our bill moving, this happens. We'll worry about that next year. This year, we need to train the heck out of every American in every part of this country and from every community in this country. We need to find opportunities to get everybody involved in the high-tech economy. The CHIPS Act did it, now Congress just has to fund it. And we need skilled people from outside the country. I know, I'm out of time. Happy to talk about this in detail with you. We're a little tight on time, and Soapbox has